Good day. I'm trying the video again. There were some issues with the previous one, so I'm going to record from my office this time. Currently, you're looking at the home page. When we click on the modules, you will see the different ones showing up, including the first essay assignment, which is opened here. So I won't go into the details about this. The topic that you have assigned for the assignment, for the essay, and also talk a little bit about the formatting of your essay, making sure that you understand that MLA. I have the unit, the module here, set up in different areas. You have the first part, some details about argument, which go along with what was up in the first one here, where you have the PowerPoint, the different handouts about creating the argument. We'll go back to that in just a moment. But this one also offers you some other details. Some of the key aspects that you can look at for formatting. I have a link to the Purdue Online Writing Lab, which goes over that. And they also have you some examples of essays written by students and some details about revising an essay from North Carolina, University of North Carolina, and their writing lab. So, in looking at this, we want to talk a bit about what the topic is. And so if you look down here for your assignment, at the bottom you'll see the first essay assignment. And when you will click on this, the handout will appear. You can download the handout as well by just clicking on this arrow. But you can also see it here on the screen. So we're going to look at this very quickly. Try to get this a little bit bigger for you to see. So for the first essay, as it says here, you're to develop an essay that's argumentative in nature. You've been reading about argument. You've been looking at the handouts, hopefully. So that means you're going to develop your approach to the topic in a manner that I have discussed in classes. This is the same handout that I use, the same opening standard that I use for either in face-to-face or an online class. But what you are going to do, your approach is going to be narrowed, as it says here, in regard to the topic, and it's going to be one that you have researched and that has a reasoned discussion of the information. Your opinion is not going to work. It will help you feel motivated to write, but when you argue, opinion is not used. Rather, you rely on facts, which means verifiable information into whatever you're discussing, personal experiences that may come into play, and then some very specific examples that are, again, factual in their nature. So you're going to narrow down to it. You're not going to try to take a large approach, the topic that we're going to see here in just a moment. You're going to use MLA format, which means you'll use appropriate 10 to 12 font size, such as Times New Roman, which would be 12, Calibri, which would be 11. It's already set there. Courier New, which is going to be 10, and Arial, which will probably be 12 as well. So again, whichever one you prefer, go with one of those. Those are considered standard fonts. In your discussion, use present tense. You're discussing the topic currently. So you will maintain for this academic formal essay the present tense. You are going to use a careful analysis of the issue. You do not use I's and we's and you's. You need to avoid expressions such as I think, I believe, it's my opinion, or in my opinion, as those are unnecessary. If you offer a comment, it will be assumed to be your comment unless you cite it, and then we'll know that you took that information from a source. You're not going to use a personal view, where you're just discussing it from your feelings or attitudes or beliefs. That's not how you argue, as you hopefully have gone through in the other particular handouts and other unit 1. Rather, you present information and discuss it. We're going to go back and look at that formatting here in a moment. So again, arguments must have evidence. You cannot argue if you do not have evidence, and that evidence must be examined and explained. Opinions do not qualify as evidence. So your view about the issue doesn't qualify as evidence. It will motivate you to take a side on the issue, but it is not the actual evidence. So your topic for this first one is something that's come up again this past spring when the legislature was meeting. It always seems to come up. Should Texas legalize the recreational use of marijuana? Now, Texas has a limited use of marijuana for medical purposes, but recreational use of marijuana is still illegal in the state and is subject to penalties. So what you want to keep in mind as you're looking at this topic, and we're going to look at it here in a little bit more, keep in mind the following points. Are you giving only your opinion? That's not what you need to do. Have you stated why the situation is problematic? Means, why is this even an issue? If it's not an issue, if there's no problem to it, then there's no reason to argue it. Do you have, in your essay, have you taken a side, a statement of position? If you're only using your emotional response, you're not arguing. Do you have substantial reasons? Have you looked at the information? Have you researched and found details and facts, statistics, studies, etc., that you are going to be able to utilize to support your position? And have you been fair in what you present about that? And have you shown your connection between your support, your evidence, and the view that you are supporting? Also, have you made good use of essay form? Do you have a good introduction, interesting introduction? Have you set up your essay to flow smoothly, so all the transitions from one paragraph to the next move very easily? And do you have a strong conclusion? And that little point here about conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, when you write an essay, do not use in conclusion to start your final paragraph. That is unnecessary. If your conclusion does not end your essay in a smooth manner, you didn't write it well. You do not have to tell the reader that this is the conclusion. For speeches, you do. Because when you're giving a speech, the listener cannot tell that you're about to end. When reading an essay, the reader can recognize the essay is finishing because there are no more words. So do not use such phrases in conclusion when you write an essay. You also make sure that you have been consistent in your tone and attitude, that you don't vacillate, that you do not go from one side to the next, but that you're being very firm and clear which side you're supporting as you develop the entire essay. The essay is going to be about 800 to 1,000 words, but you're not confined to this. If you need to go a little longer than that, that's perfectly fine. To develop your ideas, that's always necessary. Again, 800 to 1,000 just gives you as the expression is a ballpark number. Is something that you can develop the idea in a sound manner. Does not mean that will necessarily be the limit to produce a well-developed idea. Don't try to be too broad. Instead, keep your approach that is appropriate. Keep in mind that is the argumentative side is reflecting on the reasons that the argument should be the dominant side. Your opinion is going to offer your impetus for why you are writing about the topic, why you are looking at it. So that's going to be recognized since it's your argument. So you want to keep some points in mind. This is how your heading should look. Your name, my name. Our course is English 1301 and the date. That will be, this is the heading that's on the left. Then you center your title, whatever your title is going to be. And then you double space your essay. You tab over for a paragraph. And then you double space. You have your points, which multiple points you're going to need to support, and what you need to do. At least one piece of evidence. Again, as you have reviewed the handouts from Unit 1, the writing process, you have to have at least one piece of evidence for every major point. Sometimes you may need more. And that evidence will be statistics, facts, direct quotation for someone who's knowledgeable, means an expert in the field, and then you present that and discuss it. So you discuss that. You have to explain how this evidence, whatever the statistic, the fact, how the quote from the expert in the field applies to, conforms to the point you're trying to make. You have to explain how it's relevant, and you have to develop it from your perspective, where again, it's where you argue the evidence, not just simply present the evidence and say that's all I need to do. This essay is due September 27th. It has by 11 p.m. It actually goes a little later than that, just before midnight. So again, good luck. If you have questions, let me know. So that's the handout. And when you go to this first essay assignment, you will see below, if this will work, yeah, there we go. You will see below this gray bar. And this is how you will load your essay to turn it in from Canvas. You will click on this, and it's not going to show. You will see a submit button over here, submit assignment button. I don't have that because, of course, I don't get to submit. But this is how it looks. I will try to show you how it looks in the student view. So here's the handout, which you can download. Here's the bar. You click on it, and it says I can't process it, primarily because I'm not enrolled as a student. But when you click on it, you will see a submit button to go along with this image. You'll see this image, and there'll be a submit button for it. And that will take you to ask you to browse your computer and upload your file. Let's go back over to the modules. Again, I try to give you a couple of weeks to be able to go through all this. Hopefully you look through the writing process, PowerPoint, what makes the whole situation of writing, how you're involved from pre-writing, through drafting, through revision, and then through editing. I have your little video. It didn't take long. Hopefully you enjoyed that one. He, in case you couldn't tell, was Canadian. As you can tell by his process instead of process. Have you a couple of PowerPoints from outside sources. And then this idea about the format. And this is what we're going to look at next. This again was a handout that shows you some of the details. Let's get that a little bit bigger. This is only a sample format. There are, of course, other ways to do it, but this worked fairly well. In your introduction, which is one, maybe two paragraphs at most, you're going to set up, establish, and state what you're claiming, the point you're supporting. You're going to try to draw any background information you may need. If the background information may be very extensive, then it may need maybe be offered in a paragraph or two on its own. Usually that's not going to be necessary. Instead, background can probably be incorporated into the introduction in one or two paragraphs. What you do have to have is the explanation, your perspective of the issue. Again, you don't say, I view it this way, my view is. Rather, you state the position, and that way we know that since it's not being cited, it is your perspective on the issue. So you don't have to say, my view of this topic is. No, that's unnecessary. Just say, the issue, that the state of Texas should legalize recreational use, or recreational use of marijuana in the state of Texas should not be legal. And then you have to have your reasons for that. And those help to establish, as it says here, the foundation for your argument. If you have to define any terms, such as what exactly is the difference between medical use and recreational use, you may feel a need to offer that explanation. And then after you have established your position, you set it up in the ways that you need to, you then move to your developing paragraphs or your supported paragraphs. So for your first supporting evidence paragraph, you of course are going to develop it as one paragraph, but it can be more than one. It may be this particular area needs two different ones. If you have two or three different pieces of evidence that go along together, you may want to examine each one in a separate paragraph. But what you want to do is have a topic sentence for each paragraph that connects to the thesis, your major idea that you will have established in the opening, the introduction. Your thesis is going to be the position you're taking on the topic and why. And that's where it says state your claim. Doesn't always have to be at the end, but typically will be. And then the topic sentences are going to link to that thesis to take the particular reasons, probably one at a time, and develop those. It's going to be the one item fact detail that you want to relate to the reader in this particular aspect to make sure your claim comes across. You're going to explain the topic sentence, how it fits, introduce evidence, where you then actually state the evidence, where if you need a quote, you need statistics, whatever your evidence may be, and then you have to examine that evidence. This is where your perspective comes in, where you're looking at the fact and you're discussing how that fact pertains to the side you're supporting. That'll take 1, 2, 3 sentences at most. Then you will wrap that up to conclude that particular topic and then move to the next one. And then this is what's called the shampoo method. You rinse and repeat. So you simply, for your next several paragraphs, do the same sort of structure here. Offer evidence, discuss the evidence, examine it fully, explain how it fits your point, wrap that point up to transfer to the next one, and continue. The counter-argument doesn't always have to come at the end. It typically can, but it doesn't always have to. Rather, you can start your essay with counter-argument. In the particular case of the topic, if you're saying you're supporting legalization of marijuana for recreational purpose, you can say the marijuana use as a recreational substance has been discussed in a number of different areas, and the state of Texas has firmly stood against that. The state's position has always been about what, where that would be the counter-argument, the views that has always been held. However, and then you have that one. Well, that may be how you want to even start your essay sometimes. But what you want to make sure that you do in your essay somewhere, such as at the end, acknowledge the other side. Acknowledge if there's a different perspective, and then you go, but. You come back and show how your view actually has an objective, reasonable consideration. Sometimes you can do that for different pieces of evidence, so that literally the counter-argument may be sprinkled throughout the essay. But what you do want to make sure you do is have it in there someplace where you're going to acknowledge there's another side, and that your side, though, has some strength to it. So that can work in that way. Then in your conclusion, you will make sure that you have what is called the restatement of your purpose, reminding readers of the position you're taking, and then the so what. Why is this particular topic even important? Why is the approach you're taking something that should be considered? So you want to make sure you can offer that. What's significance about it? Why is it important? How does all that fit together? And that's where your climax will come in. So again, introducing new information can work, but you have to connect it to your previous comments. Make sure that you're not offering new claims, which means you're still writing the rest of the essay. Rather, you should be wrapping up all your key points to connect to your claim, that thesis you have. This, as you'll notice, comes from Washington, the Odegaard Writing and Research Center at the University of Washington. So I make sure I give them credit, because that's where I received this information from, and so I make sure I have that offered. And so that was the format that you can follow. It's a very clear one. There's a couple other ones that you can look at. The University of North Carolina and its Writing Center has details about argument, about what it is, how you can look at it, about making a claim, the thesis statement, and how that should be. And then they go on to talk about evidence. Again, you should already been reading this, considering it, thinking about it. That's what the first couple of weeks you should have been doing. Hopefully you have. Then here's the idea about the counter-argument. They offer some strategies about how to approach that one. And then keeping in mind the idea about critical reading. Read your sources. Look at the research. Think about it. Ask questions about it. And so they offer this particular handout. Again, I'm not going to read all this one to you, but it does offer you some key views. And now, back over here. One other aspect that you can see is that I did have a video for you to look at that I've sort of covered some of these points already. But what we're looking at here is, as you're looking at the topic, there's some aspects you can look at and can develop. If you'll notice, I revising here and I have it here. This is to remind you after you work on, excuse me for that pop-up, as you're working on your essay and getting it ready to turn it in, you want to go back through and revise it. What I do have here are some questions that you can use to assess your argument. And what that does is that you want to look at these when you're looking at the sources that you're considering, and also when you're reviewing your own essay. Does the writer present a claim and have good reasons to validate it? What exactly is this thesis? And does the information follow a logical pattern? When you're looking at your articles for your research, for drawing your evidence, has the article presented this information in this way? When you're going back over revising your essay, these are questions you need to ask yourself to evaluate. How have you done in writing your argument? Evaluate the content. Is there, truth values? Is it evidence? Is it valid and sound? Is it appropriate and true? What you have presented and what is in the article you're looking at? Does it validate it? Is it specific evidence? How credible is it? Where does it come from? And then you also want to make sure that the appropriateness, is it really a need? Remember earlier in the handout, is there any justification? Do we need to discuss this issue, or is it already self-evident? Well, if it is, there's no reason to argue it. So you need to make sure that you follow those. And so this was a handout that will help you when you are also assessing the articles and the research you're going to do, but also looking at your own essay. Let me close unit 1. And then I have a couple of sample essays here for you. This is an example of a counter argument, so you can see how that sounds. It's just applied here. Where, again, guided transition, first of all, you don't always want to do that. That's a little simplistic. And it shows you some details here. The details, offering comments from a teacher, and then the counter argument. Some may argue the students like the responsibility to have drinks in class. That's where you acknowledge the other side. It's a statement simply as that. And then knows that, however, is not true. You don't necessarily have to, that's not true. However, students do have responsibility. They may, students that drink in the cafeteria all the time, and rarely is there a spill. There could be a compromise where students only bring in clear liquids, eliminating the stains. And so again, you're acknowledging the other side, and you're offering views, where you're countering what the argument against the position is actually there. And that's all it can be. And then here's how a concluding paragraph could sound. So this one gives you an idea of how to recap your argument, offering your reasons, ending with a call to action, which don't do it that way. Letting students have this proved will allow them to prove that they deserve it would be simple enough. But don't ever use this one. That's an appeal to emotion. We're not trying to do that. And you're also making a comment to the reader to do something, and that's not how you do it. The argument should be objective and off to a point. So don't use the imperative tone. That's what this is, where you're giving a command to the reader to do something. So you don't want to do that. Again, you don't really need to have this one. This will be fine right here. This conclusion. Not only this, but it will give the student body a chance to show they are mature enough to handle responsibility. Letting students have the privilege of bringing drink to class is an opportunity to prove they deserve it, and period, there you are. So this gives you an idea of how you can look at a counter argument and also a conclusion. Again, it's a simple handout that offers you that view. And then what I also have for you are sample essays. This is one by a student. You'll see that it's from written. Now, the formatting here is a little off. They put some extra spaces here. You shouldn't have had that one. But you'll see how there's a title. And then you'll see they've tabbed over for paragraphs. They tabbed over twice for blocked quotes. Anything that's going to take more directly quoted from a source that's going to require more than 3 top lines must be blocked. And when you block, you put the period after the information, then you put the citation. You'll see that, again, this goes on. Here's the paragraphing. This one has a source listed. It's what we call a parenthetical. So it goes at the end of the sentence, put into parentheses, and then the period follows the source, unlike the block, where you have the period and then the parenthetical citation. Again, you'll see they put extra spaces between the paragraphs. That's an easy fix. When you go into your Word document, you simply go into the paragraph settings and tell it to eliminate extra spaces between paragraphs. And then you set your spacing at double space. Again, notice the tabbing over for paragraphs. Here again is a citation. In this case, it's a direct quote. One aspect about this one, it was just over 3. It probably should have been blocked, but since it was just barely 3, the student opted not to block it, which is allowable. One thing that needed to be fixed, and again, these are not perfect essays, unless you're quoting material and the quote has contractions. For formal writing, academic purposes, we do not use contractions. So that contraction should have been fixed. Again, I haven't marked this one for you. Again, you'll see how they are offering evidence throughout, this idea about how it's used, and then the conclusion. You'll see the different sources that have been utilized, and one aspect here that should have been fixed. The sources should be alphabetized. So this one should have been up here. I haven't fixed these, but that source should have come here, because alphabetically it would have been the second one. And so there are some errors in this one. It's not a perfect essay, but it gives you an idea of how your essay can look, how it should appear, and it gives you an idea of some of the details that can be incorporated into an essay. I have this other essay for you, again, sample essay, and again, this one is also over the top about higher education. You'll see again, student name, my name, and you'll see the year here is from 2015, so it goes back a few years. Spacing here is double spaced. Again, it has a little extra space between paragraphs, should have been eliminated. It sets up with a quote. One of the ways that you can introduce or set up any essay, you can use a quote from a source to help be a springboard for you. You can use an anecdote, a little story to help ties into what you're going to discuss. You can utilize a direct comment. You can, which is simply a statement into it. You can use that counter argument approach. You can use a question, which you then respond to deliberately and quickly to bring up your thesis. Your thesis will not be the question. You'll see here, college is worth the cost because. So it's taking a side here. It's coming out in favor of higher education. And it has 3 key reasons. Reflecting on social skills, financial benefits, and security. And so each one of these 3 points becomes the key aspects, the topics for the development of the rest of the essay. And so it goes in talking about when people go to college, they continue going to join various social groups. There's this one about social skills, social groups. So we see the order being fit. So in high school, people may be quiet and shy, and but in college, they're surrounded by a chance to be open-minded. Well, this idea about social skills are components of behavior. This is a paraphrasing, a summary of key points from this source, Walker, and that's why it is cited. It's not directly quoted, but the information of this detail comes from a source. Same with the next information about good interpersonal skills. That also comes from a source. You'll see that the next paragraph then talks about money. Could have been a little smoother transition here, I'll let you know. And again, details about the benefits. Also, all that comes from a source. And then you'll hear another, according to college life expert Kelsey Lucier, people who have degrees have many more open doors. So you have that citation. This is what I call an interior citation, where the source is given within the sentence, so there's no need for the parenthetical as up here. You have the details all offered there. And again, other aspects. A quote from LeBlanc, and the idea about this is a direct quote, so it's blocked. And when you block, you don't have to use quotation marks if the whole information is taken word for word. And otherwise, you wouldn't block it. Again, it keeps on going, talks about this. Here's the use of a question and a response to the question. Again, details all this information about Gates and Stephen Jobs drawn from this source here. Again, when it says research shows, that should have been cited. What research? Where did this research come from? This raises one of the little holes in the argument. It says research shows the advantages. Okay, which research is this writer bringing up? How does it show? So it should have been addressed here and somehow brought up to make a stronger conclusion. And then here's the works cited. There's no reason to have different font. Keep the same font. If you'll notice, the font here is Times New Roman. This one changes. So you shouldn't change font. The works cited page should be in the same font that you wrote in, same size of font, and the listing of your sources should also be the same font style. This one does get everything alphabetically ordered, so you can see the details here. And so, again, not a perfect essay. There's some areas that should be addressed, such as that conclusion where it says research shows. What research is this writer actually alluding to? It doesn't state it, doesn't support it. The organization works very well with the establishing 3 reasons here and using those 3 reasons to give a structure to the essay, and using some details to bring in and supporting the comments with the sources. So this is one that you can look at as an example as well. So when you're looking at the idea of your topic, what I've offered for you, this is not limited to, but I've given you some places to go and some articles to look at from within the last 5 or so years. This one, procon.org, is a nonpartisan issue, and it has a number of different sources, such as, and topics, such as, if you will look, oops, I passed it, recreational marijuana. Should it be illegal? And what they offer here is just some general comment here, and then they show you arguments for and arguments against. And if you click on these little numbers, where did they get that information? Well, source 78 is this one. It's from this particular source. Now, it's from a few years ago, but it gives you some ideas and it offers some quotes, some details. And so you have second reason for it, second reason against it. And again, it says studies show. Well, which studies are we talking about? Well, if we click on 32, the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence. And again, you can actually go to this website and look at the actual information. And 3 reasons, 4th reasons. So it has 4 reasons. Then offers you some facts about this, some details. You can also go up here and you'll see that there's some side points to it. State by state recreational marijuana laws, the history of recreational marijuana, the quotes themselves. But if we go to recreational marijuana, the homepage, that's what we're on. If you go to the history of recreational marijuana, it goes into much more detail than previously offered. Cannabis history in the United States, trend toward outlawing it. It was first outlawed in 1930s. I think it was 33, 34, something like that. 37. And details here. 50 years ago, we had the Substance Control Act, and then you start having some changes elsewhere. So again, all these sort of details, these are just the facts about marijuana and the laws about marijuana in this country. And so you have these views. And when you click on the pro-con arguments, that's what we have here. When you click on the pro-con quotes, it's the same situation where you have quotes from different sources. And you'll see some of these are fairly recent, earlier this year, in January of 2023. This has come up again. Again, when you look at the state laws, here they are about which states have legal medical marijuana, like green ones, which ones have legal medical recreational marijuana. You'll see those. You'll see that Texas is not one of those. We do not have that. So that's why when you look at the argument, it's about should Texas legalize recreational marijuana. You'll see the different laws and standards that are used. It's now 24 states. I thought it was 23. 23 states plus the District of Columbia. Okay, that's why I was thinking it's 23 states. So again, pro-con is a really nice place to go to get some background on the issues. I also have for you some articles. In 2018, this particular article from the Texas Standard, which is just a daily talk, talks about how close is Texas to legalizing. So 5 years ago, they were looking at this. And the details here, so you have a little article. The next one that I have for you comes from 2021 from the San Antonio Report. Again, this is just a couple of years ago, where it was proposed that Texas should consider doing this, and here's why. And then the next one is from Forbes magazine from earlier this year, February, about a bill that was proposed, introduced, that would allow legal recreational marijuana on a local level. And you can click on this, and there's House Bill 1937. So you can actually read the bill itself that was proposed. And then when you go back here, again, this is further looking at what the Texas law states and shows. And here's the, again, legality by state. You can click on that and open it up. Is medical marijuana legal? Not really. It's very limited. Requires a prescription. It requires compassionate use. It has to be for specific treatment. And there are estimations that there are probably less than 10,000 individuals who have that prescription in this state. And so you can look at the details here, and the idea of the future. And then it talks about a legal alternative to marijuana. And so again, this is something that if you're going to argue about should it be legal, should it not, well, you can bring up this idea about Delta 8 and how it is not, that legalized marijuana may not be needed. So again, there are approaches you can look at. I'm going to go back to what I have offered for you, the different sources here. And then this particular one is an article from CBS News, again from April, and it just talks about conversations that were held with House Bill 3652 that was offered. And so again, you can click on that one, and it will show you the House bill itself. So this next one I want to show you, again, I'm sorry, these are supposed to have been already opened, and for some reason Canvas has not published them, so I'll make sure those are published for you. This takes you, excuse me, wrong one. This takes you to our library resources. If you'll notice right over here, you'll see our library resources, and I'll open that in a new tab. And this is what you see for our library resources. One of the links I have for you is this one, and you can type in here. You can also go up to our research databases, and I gave you the one for points of view, but you can also use the opposing viewpoints. But excuse me, look. So this one, if you click on it, when you click on it, you're going to be asked to log in, and it's your same login you use for Canvas. So it's going to, it's has caused an issue again. This does this occasionally. So let me click on the databases. Move back, hold on. It's supposed to open. I had checked that earlier, and it's supposed to have been working. So we'll just have to make sure we go to this one. And, okay, so again, you may have to go to our library resources and type in this again. The link seems to have stopped, so let's see. Okay, and this is what you should see. Some of the articles here, that's what should have shown up, and especially this one. This is the one that is about just the overview. And that was supposed to be the link that worked, but again, with our library, it doesn't always work that way. I will try to do a little bit better getting this into it. It's supposed to have worked because I used the permalink, but again, you'll notice it asks for you to log in. What you're typically going to get is ask you to log in, and then it will open this. Let's see if this link works any better. Yes. Again, you'll be asked to log in, but here's the one from a point of view, where it, again, talks about the details and let you see some, and again, you see some images there, and just talks about that idea. So these are some of the links I provide for you. I'll see if I can fix that EBSCO one. So these are some places you can go look for research. There are other places to go as well, but you want to make sure you stay away from sources that are not going to be credible. Do not use Wikipedia, please. That's not for academic purposes. Do not use blogs. Blogs are just people's opinions, so they're not usable. So stay away from certain sources. Make sure you're using credible sources. I'll try to make sure I get you the link here corrected on this one. It should have been, but because I just checked it earlier and it was working. So these things happen sometimes. But again, when you get ready for your first essay assignment to submit it, you click here. You have the window down here of the actual handout, and then you have this little gray bar to click on, and that'll take you to turn it in, where you'll have a little submit assignment, and you'll follow through from there. So hopefully this is going to help. As I said, I will try to correct this link for some reason that's not working, and we'll get that taken care of. The other one should be working for you, and we will try to make sure that we have all this taken care of for you. I'll get this posted, and I will put it here about debates of arguments. So it's going to be in this particular one. It'll come first. Again, the MLA formatting guide, when you click on it, it takes you to Purdue OWL and shows you how to use citations, the details, what you need to include, how you need to include it. Again, this is how citations look. This is what I call the hanging indent on your works cited page, as I showed you on that example essay. The left margin is maintained for the first line. Then after that, double spacing your entry, you tab over once for all subsequent lines. Again, they show you how to do these, following all the formatting that is necessary. And they also show you how to, again, general format here. If you click on it, just talking a little bit about your paper format, what you can look at. So this is a very useful guide for you for formatting your essay. So again, this particular recording I'll be posting for you, making sure that I have it up there for you. And again, I will make sure that link to the EBSCO works. So hopefully you'll see this. I'll send out a notice that this is that this has been recorded and uploaded for you to use.